Welcome to Dinar Trend Tracker channel. Get ready, everyone, for the moment you've all been waiting for has finally come, and it's shaking the world. The Iraqi Central Bank, CBI, has formally activated new reference rates for the Iraqi Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong, ending years of speculation, hopeful waiting, and innumerable rumors that have circulated in financial newsrooms and online forums. This isn't some hopeful blip in alternative currencies or a hushed social media post. The world's financial and exchange networks are reeling from this formal declaration. This change is hugely significant and should not be taken lightly. This change indicates that the worldwide market's treatment of these two currencies will undergo a more profound transformation. The story is developing, for those who have been waiting with clenched jaws, clinging to fragments of partially plausible comments and leaks. Institutional decision-making and implementation are now involved in what was previously only conjecture. This is no longer mere speculation or optimism. The global community is closely observing it because of the seriousness of the potential impact on the financial system. Change begins in Baghdad. Rumor has it that technical preparations and meticulous planning have been going on for some time inside Iraq's top financial authority, even before the public announcement. Recalibrating the currency rate machinery across both local and foreign platforms has supposedly been finished by the Central Bank of Iraq. Making sure foreign reserves and currency swap facilities are prepared for the unexpected influx of upgraded flows involves more than just updating numbers on a rate sheet. It also involves testing compatibility with cross-border payment systems, aligning new rate data with SWIFT messaging protocols, and ensuring internal compliance with banking regulations. From monetary policy units to abroad liaison offices, this was a well-planned operation, according to observers, and the decision was not made on the fly. Each one making sure that the correspondent financial chains can handle the new rates without a hitch. To sum up, it seems like Iraq is getting ready to unveil a rebalanced exchange mechanism to the world, one that will hopefully help the dinar stand stronger in international trade and financial flows. The symbolic and practical significance of this decision emanating from Baghdad cannot be overstated. It is a turning moment for trust, authority, and the legitimacy of the institution. The same thing happening in Vietnam? Why is this moment even more remarkable? Coincides with the apparent simultaneous activation of currency adjustments by a second nation, Vietnam. According to regional banking statistics emerging from Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, the Vietnamese Dong Long is showing signals of freshly emerging trading values and altering reference rates, after maintaining a relatively steady but carefully regulated rate relative to major world currencies. Although cautious, these signals indicate that the Vietnamese government is also shifting its approach to be more responsive to market demands and international capital flows, rather than fixed or managed. Many experts believe that Vietnam's economy is well suited for this kind of change because of its history of robust exports, large trade surpluses, and increasing FDI. Both countries may be hinting to a larger goal of greater financial independence, less reliance on external pegging procedures, and improved currency competitiveness and stability in global markets by changing the Dong and the DNR at the same time. Given the coordinated timing of these adjustments, it's reasonable to assume that central banks are closely monitoring each other, maybe even consulting, and taking simultaneous actions to regain control over the determination of interest rates. The major indicator, Chase Bank. Among the most notable confirmations comes from Chase Bank, one of the biggest banks in the U.S. Chase has made a groundbreaking announcement that has shaken up the world of currency trading. It is getting its systems ready for new foreign exchange operations linked to the dinar and the dong. The subtext is strong, despite the carefully stated statement. We are setting up specialized foreign exchange trading desks. We are updating our risk management processes to deal with potential increases in volatility or changes in liquidity, and we are preparing our internal compliance and settlement frameworks to take on new rate flows. Professionals in the financial sector view the public signaling of readiness by a large bank as strong endorsement. Holders of these currencies are significantly more likely to witness actual flows, transactions, and rate adjustments if Chase decides it must position itself for incoming activity. Proof like this from Chase is more than just lip service. The revaluation narrative is starting to transition from theory to action, and this is one of the first institutional acknowledgments of that fact. Things to come. Iraqi dinar revaluation has been a vague concept floating around in internet forums, wishful thinking, and anecdotal leaks for quite some time. The story is now entering a new phase, where tangible institutional infrastructure and prospective market action come together, thanks to a combination of institutional moves such as rate activation in Baghdad, rising signals in Hanoi, and Chase Bank's public posture. A lot of questions still need answering. When will the changeover be implemented? How is liquidity going to be maintained? How fast will the new rates be adopted by overseas banks? Is there a tried-and-true method for exchanging money between correspondent networks? In what ways might investors react? What kind of regulatory protections are going to be implemented? Despite these unknowns, the fact that the CBI has turned a switch and that big banks are lining up in reaction suggests that what we are seeing may be more than just rhetoric, it might be the beginning of a structural shift. The implications of these developments on currency markets, trade contracts, foreign investment, sovereign credit, and the world's view of these countries might be far-reaching if they materialize. For those keeping tabs, what seemed like a faraway dream is now inching closer to the edges of reality, and the transformation from rumor to fact is well underway. Where we came from. The financial system of Iraq has been through years of structural work, limitation, and incremental reconstruction, and that is why we are at this critical point today. Monetary stabilization is the first of the contributing components. Iraq has worked to diversify its foreign currency holdings, rein in its budget deficit, and improve the openness of government financial reporting and accounting throughout the last decade. In spite of the constant threat from unpredictable oil revenues and political unpredictability, the Central Bank of Iraq, CBI, has made efforts to fortify its balance sheet, tighten its liquidity management, and align certain of its operations with international standards. Meanwhile, efforts to rein in inflation, decrease reliance on off-budget spending, and shrink massive deficits have been slow and shaky. These endeavors have not been without flaws, but they do provide the foundation for considering a re-evaluation. In the absence of any stability, actual or perceived, a sudden increase in the DNR's value can have the opposite effect of what is intended, a loss of confidence. In addition to basic macroprudence, Iraq has begun a massive digital banking reform. In order to meet the standards set by international organizations such as the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the Bank for International Settlements, the Central Bank of India, CBI, and its associated ministries have been actively improving the country's payment rails, central clearing systems, and messaging infrastructure in recent years. The necessity to establish or enhance real-time gross settlement systems has been brought up multiple times in banking reform forums and policy discussions. RTGS enhances the connectivity of SWIFT, while simultaneously guaranteeing the strong integration of any future exchange system with international banking networks. We must prioritize these updates. Modifying a rate sheet's numerical value is a piece of cake. The actual labor is in altering the underlying plumbing so that every bank, correspondent network, and external system notices and accepts the change. What is taking place at the moment is more akin to a systems launch, enabling new tracks in a coordinated, secure, and resilient manner, rather than a straightforward process of repricing. Cracking down on illicit cash transactions is another missing ingredient. A sizable off-books exchange industry has existed in Iraqi and other emerging formal markets for some time, frequently with rates that are far lower than official ones and that are either not regulated at all or only partially so. The official rate set by the central bank is weakened, distorted, and public confidence is undermined by these markets. Reducing parallel market liquidity has long been a central tenet of the reformist economic agenda in Iraq. When trade in the dinar is practically limited to controlled channels, the official rate takes on additional significance beyond its symbolic value. This calls for improved cooperation between regulators and law enforcement, licensing of exchange houses, stronger penalties for arbitrage, and more stringent supervision overall. The central bank's rate gains credibility and traction as the volume of that parallel market decreases. Overall, the current rate is more than just a figure. It is an act of restitution. The island nation is making its case once again for its rightful place in the international monetary system. Transparency, discipline, and global integration allow us to set, manage, and defend our currency. The Vietnamese counterpart unfolds at a slower pace, but with equal strategic intent. For many years, export growth has been the backbone of Vietnam's economic model. The country's industrial sector, electronics manufacturing, and worldwide supply chain linkages have all contributed to its gradually increasing foreign exchange buffers, along with its favorable trade balances and integrated supply chains. A more flexible position to explore currency changes will be enjoyed by the Vietnamese government as trade surpluses build up, FDI flows in, and macro fundamentals stabilize. There has been a gradual loosening of capital account limitations, a push for the dong to make more responsible adjustments, and a greater alignment of trade contracts with international market rates in Vietnam. Now, when we speak about a dong adjustment, it's more of an acknowledgement that Vietnam has established the credibility to express a greater valuation via sustained economic progress, rather than a sudden shock. That is to say, Vietnam is no longer being ignored by the market. Changes in its currency reflect the world's growing recognition of its growing economic influence. This simultaneous shift in Iraq and Vietnam adds to the larger storyline that suggests the developing markets may be experiencing a coordinated currency transition moment. Reasons for Chase's importance: it takes more than actions taken by national central banks to effect large-scale currency revaluations. They rely on the support and legitimacy of big banks, particularly those in the United States and Europe, which play a pivotal role in global liquidity and settlement networks. There is substance to Chase's public declaration that it is getting ready to process fresh dinar and dong flows. Seems to indicate that a major participant in the international banking industry is getting ready to take part in the transformation that will turn the adjustment into a component of the international financial infrastructure, rather than just a local reform. From a technical standpoint, this process is not audit-ready at 12 o'clock. It includes making sure anti-money laundering checks are still strong, upgrading algorithms that price and quote rates, securely changing code, and bridging data flows between current currency pairs, along with incorporating updated rates into trading platforms. Once that system is live, there's no turning back. The increased rates are permanent, not temporary. The domino effect frequently occurs when large banks go live. It is common for smaller financial institutions to wait until the top names in the industry take the lead before acting. However, other banks usually start pricing and clearing with the new dinar dong rates once Chase, Citi, HSBC, or similar institutions do so. While official statements of the new IQD and VND signals have not yet been made, anecdotal evidence suggests that certain banks in the US and Europe are already implementing changes to their back-end systems to reflect these changes. So, before the signs are erected, the plumbing is being set. Change begins in Baghdad. According to insiders, technological preparations and meticulous planning had been carried out within the premises of Iraq's top financial institution for some time before the public announcement. Recalibrating the exchange rate machinery across both local and foreign platforms allegedly took a long time and was accomplished by the Central Bank of Iraq. Making sure foreign reserves and currency swap facilities are prepared for the unexpected influx of upgraded flows involves more than just updating numbers on a rate sheet. It also involves testing compatibility with cross-border payment systems, aligning new rate data with SWIFT messaging protocols, and ensuring internal compliance with banking regulations. This was clearly not an impulsive choice, according to the Observer, but a well-coordinated effort spanning several divisions, from overseas liaison offices to monetary policy units, all working together to make sure the new rates can be processed smoothly across correspondent financial chains. To sum up, it seems like Iraq is getting ready to unveil a rebalanced exchange mechanism to the world, one that will hopefully help the dinar stand stronger in international trade and financial flows. This development out of Baghdad is significant for more than just its symbolic value. Confidence, legitimacy, and the credibility of institutions all reach a turning point at this juncture. The fact that another country, Vietnam, seems to be implementing currency adjustments simultaneously makes this moment all the more remarkable. Regional banking data from Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City indicates that the Vietnamese dong long, which has been maintained at a relatively constant but carefully regulated rate relative to major foreign currencies, is now beginning to show signs of depreciation, with reference rates changing and new trade values appearing. Although cautious, these signals indicate that the Vietnamese government is also shifting its approach to be more responsive to market demands and international capital flows, rather than fixed or managed. Many experts believe that Vietnam's economy is well suited for this kind of change because of its history of robust exports, large trade surpluses, and increasing FDI. Both countries may be hinting to a larger goal of greater financial independence, less reliance on external pegging procedures, and improved currency competitiveness and stability in global markets by changing the dong and the DNR at the same time. The coordinated timing of these adjustments indicates that central banks are closely observing each other, possibly even consulting, and are taking simultaneous actions to regain control over the decision of interest rates. The major indicator, Chase Bank. Among the most notable confirmations comes from Chase Bank, one of the biggest banks in the U.S. Chase has admitted in a statement that has shaken up the currency trading community that it is preparing its internal systems for new foreign exchange operations linked to the dinar and the dong. The subtext is strong, despite the carefully stated statement. We are setting up specialized foreign exchange trading desks. Preparations are underway to incorporate new rate flows into existing compliance and settlement frameworks, and risk management processes are being revised to deal with potential increases in volatility or changes in liquidity. Financial industry professionals view the public indication of readiness by a large U-bank as solid validation. Real flow transactions and rate adjustments are more likely to occur if Chase thinks it needs to be ready for incoming activity. Seeing Chase's confirmation in this way is more than just symbolic for anyone holding these currencies. The revaluation narrative is starting to take shape, and this is one of the earliest official recognitions of that fact. Next steps, turning rumors into reality. Iraqi dinar revaluation has been a vague concept floating around in internet forums, wishful thinking, and anecdotal leaks for quite some time. This narrative is now approaching a new phase, one that involves concrete institutional infrastructure and possible market action, as a result of a convergence of institutional movements from rate activation in Baghdad to growing signals to Chase Bank's public posture in Hanoi. A lot of questions still need answering. When will the changeover be implemented? How is liquidity going to be maintained? How fast will the new rates be adopted by overseas banks? How can one go about exchanging currencies across correspondent networks in a way that has been tried and true? In what ways might investors react? What kind of regulatory protections are going to be implemented? Despite these unknowns, the fact that the CBI has turned a switch and that big banks are lining up in reaction suggests that what we are seeing may be more than just rhetoric, it might be the beginning of a structural shift. What this means for currency markets, trade agreements, foreign investment, sovereign credit, and how these economies are seen internationally is anybody's guess. Attention all viewers, the transformation from urban legend to solid fact is well underway, and the edges of what seemed like an unrealized possibility are beginning to blur. The fact that the activation is taking place at this precise moment is most likely not coincidental. According to reports, Iraq has finalized several large-scale trade agreements including energy, infrastructure, and technology, with some of these deals being valued using new financial frameworks connected to the revalued dinar. Assuming this to be accurate, it would indicate that the government has been secretly implementing the revised rate for some time prior to making it public. Executing tests, finalizing agreements, and adjusting effects. In a similar vein, Vietnam has been busy bolstering its bargaining position, expanding its foreign exchange reserves, and forming export and technology alliances. Rates may have been secretly adjusted in both instances so that they would accord with these outside economic movements. Supporting the tech infrastructure. Last but not least, a synchronized digital financial infrastructure is essential for all of the above. Both countries need to implement or improve their real-time settlement systems, RTGS, so that they can make safe, instantaneous payments to each other. Once those technologies are up and running, changes to rates may be reliably and swiftly propagated over worldwide networks, lowering settlement risk and volatility. Virtually the whole digital infrastructure linking regional banks to the international monetary system is up for grabs right now, not merely a price. Response following the announcement of rate activation by the Iraqi Central Bank and the subsequent movement in tandem with the Vietnamese dong. Something is brewing in the currency markets. Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong interest has surged, according to traders, speculators, and institutional desks. In online discussion forums and social media, traders are discussing the need of monitoring order flow, the impending opening of positions, and indications that liquidity sources are subtly shifting their positions. Meanwhile, the updated prices have not been completely published on publicly accessible Forex platforms as yet. According to those in the know, this is all part of a planned launch. After doing internal testing, reconciliation, and validation, many large systems and exchanges eventually implement changes prior to presenting them to a wide audience in the market. Therefore, although the dinar and dong's face value charts may still look like they did a while ago, the the settlement systems and back-end engines are already adjusting, preparing for the change beneath a mask of progressive evaluation. Alternate trends are also beginning to take shape in the US. Individuals who own these currencies, some with little holdings and others with larger ones, claim to be getting messages from brokerage desks or exchanges. You may receive these notifications in the form of appointment reminders, requests for more verification papers, or instructions on how to upgrade your account status to accommodate newly enabled rate flows. These notifications are widely perceived as being a result of Chase's statement. Chase may be setting smaller or individual holders up for procedural cascades by indicating it is establishing infrastructure and compliance capability. After systems are stress-tested and regulatory clearances are obtained, retail or individual clients will likely be allowed access in subsequent waves by exchanges. Priority access will likely be given to high-volume institutional participants at the beginning. Monitor for regulatory purposes. Promise alone is not enough to move on with a revaluation of this size. There is a complex system of international supervision, legal compliance, and regulatory monitoring that underpins every executed rate. Many government agencies, including the Treasury, OFAC, and FI divisions, are likely keeping a careful eye on the global implementation of the new currency regime. Before full public exchange activity can take place, it must satisfy anti-money laundering (AML) standards, enforce Know Your Customer (KYC) laws, and maintain appropriate audit trails and transparency at every node. Conversion, remittance, and settlement processes are subject to stringent internal and external audits. Validate compliance, and conduct cybersecurity stress tests. Iraq and Vietnam have their own set of regulatory hurdles even within their own countries. For commercial banks, exchange houses, and payment providers to operate within newly aligned frameworks, central banks must closely monitor capital flows, check for speculative misuse, regulate volatility, and collaborate with domestic financial regulators. If there are any mistakes or irregularities, including unexpected increases in demand, compliance leaks, or exchange arbitrage, the central banks may be compelled to step in, put limits, or postpone the rollout to a wider audience. Stability is key because reevaluations are delicate in nature. In addition to policing, the regulatory machinery should be prepared to smooth and direct the overall view. Something more fundamental than a change in the value of a currency is happening right now. In the realm of finance, it represents the restoration of national sovereignty. As far as ROCs are concerned, this is a watershed moment. Iraq is finally prepared to re-enter the global financial system. After decades of war, sanctions, inflation, political unrest, and periodic worldwide disinvestment, as shown by the shift to a revalued dinar. What this means is that we can keep, protect, and integrate our currency in a transparent, rule-based fashion. This will attract potential investors from other countries who may have been hesitant to engage in our infrastructure or trade financing in the past. This might be seen as an indication that Iraq is trying to clean up its financial opacity, establish long-term confidence, and reset its posture by international institutions, sovereign funds, multilateral lenders, and even private capital corporations. This story flows beautifully with Vietnam's direction. When it comes to industry, exports, and trade connectedness, its economy has always been a cut above. In order to achieve stability, better purchasing power, and greater respect in pricing throughout supply chains, Vietnam is looking for more than just riding on cheap currency leverage. It is signaling this by strengthening the dong. A stronger dong helps exporters with currency risk management, makes capital flows more predictable, and boosts Vietnam's reputation among other emerging countries. Rumor has it that the currency activations in Iraq and Vietnam are part of a larger trend of revaluation leadership in frontier and emerging economies, rather than separate incidents. Last remarks. Reports indicate that internal banking systems have already gone live with recalibrated values, even though formal public presentations of the revised rates may still be limited today. To keep things stable, allow for calibration, and prevent disruptive conjecture, public availability will likely follow a staggered controlled rollout rather than a dramatic launch. It is expected that the Iraqi central bank will proceed with caution, closely watching the flows, liquidity, and actions of the exchange houses, and being prepared to step in if necessary. At the same time, the new signal infrastructure is being adopted and integrated by banking systems in Asia and the Middle East. Europe and other major Forex trading desks are bracing themselves to make adjustments to their quoting systems. cash provisioning and hedging departments in anticipation of potential growing waves of currency revaluations in developing economies. This is a watershed moment for anyone keeping tabs on these currencies. We may have reached a tipping point. Real institutional action may soon follow years of speculation, leaks, delays, and expectation. Get ready for a reimagining of how developing nations claim monetary sovereignty in the 21st century, if regulatory screening, banking cooperation, global liquidity, and stability measures all come together. Important changes are coming soon. Would you prefer that I create an executive summary for investors or update it to reflect recent events? Important notice. No government or banking organization has officially sanctioned the views expressed in this article, and its contents should not be considered as investment advice, financial advice, or any other type of official statement. Based on publicly accessible information and general market discussion, any references to financial entities such as the Central Bank of Iraq, CBI, the Vietnamese government, Chase Bank, etc. In no way do they represent official endorsements or announcements. Trading speculative currencies like the Iraqi Dinar, IQD, or the Vietnamese Dong, VND, in foreign currency exchange markets is extremely risky. Unpredictable economic, political, and regulatory variables cause currency prices to vary. If you are considering investing, exchanging, or trading these or any other currencies, you should get the advice of competent financial experts first. The publisher and author disclaim all responsibility for any inaccuracies, omissions, or delays in the information provided and are not liable for any damages or financial losses that may occur as a consequence of using this information. To sum up, this is not a confirmation of a revaluation event, investment advice, or advise. Official and regulated financial channels should be used to verify all information at all times.